Hey everybody, my name is Juan. I'm from the Roundhouse Aquarium, and today I'm going to show you some live animals that benefit from the work happening at West Basin when they recycle treated wastewater and removing all that gunky, nasty stuff from the water. But before I do that, I just want to say a quick thank you to West Basin and Janelle and Daryl for having me on. So what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to turn this camera over, and as we're going here, if you have any questions about the animals, about the water, about the ocean, by all means send that over and we'll get going with it. We'll just coach you down. Perfect. So you've joined me at the Roundhouse Aquarium's Tidepool tank. There's that. And here you'll have a lot of small animals that you definitely don't see swimming out in the open ocean a lot. The tide pool is a very specific, a special habitat in the ocean or place in the ocean. It's got a whole lot of rocks and very shallow water. In real life, the tide or the level of the water raises and lowers from time to time, twice a day instead. And you can find lots of different animals here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show you just a few of them. Let me just adjust my camera one last time and then get started. This habitat, by the way, is very important because not only is it home to thousands of different animals that range from many different sizes, but the importance of it is that it provides a safe habitat for animals to spawn or reproduce, have their young, have their babies. Not that many predators can access, or large predators can access this environment just because they're way too big and a little bit too clumsy to navigate the rocks. So let's go ahead and show you a few of these animals. One animal that you all probably will recognize is the bat star or sea star. Some of you might call it a sea star, starfish. Either name is right, but scientists, biologists lean more towards sea star because it's not a fish. It's in the shape of a star. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 arms, and it lives in the sea or the ocean. Now, some sea stars can have more than 5 arms, like the sun star can have over 30. And if I flip it over, underneath each 5 arms, there's quite a few hundred feet. It's really hard to see because of the camera not being able to focus on something so small. But all these tiny little tube feet are what the sea star uses to crawl around the ocean and navigate its home. You might be wondering what this little booger thing in the middle is. That's part of its stomach. The sea star eats food externally. So instead of putting food in its body, because it's just way too small, you can see how big it is compared to my hand. The sea star has to take its stomach out of its body. It looks like a giant booger blanket. And it wraps its food, let's say a mussel clam. It wraps its food with its stomach. This is a mussel clam. And it breaks its food down from a solid to like a squishy liquid type substance. And then once it's all liquefied, it can bring it back inside of its body because it's not that much of a solid mass. Now, I might pronounce some of your names wrong here during the questions part, but Iana asked how many different animals are in here. In this tank itself, we have a few hundred different animals, but really the species list is probably about no more than 20 in the specific tank. In an actual tide pool, you have everything from sea stars, sea cucumbers, which you'll see in a few minutes here, and then you might even find some small animals as well. Now, the next animal I wanted to show you is the sea cucumber. It's very soft, it's very squishy, so if you ever interact with it, be very gentle. Now, during the West Basin's recycling of wastewater, they showed you many different filters and processes that help recycle their water or even clean their water. The sea cucumber, though it doesn't look like much, is a living filter. It crawls through its home and it eats poop. You heard me right. It eats poop. It loves to eat the poop of fish, sea stars, sea urchins, and other animals. They crawl through the ocean and they make sure that their home is just a little bit more clean So they're doing their part as well. And not only is a sea cucumber and sea star very important. If you remember, I said the tide pool is a great place to find baby animals. This is an empty shark egg from a swell shark. The species is called swell shark. There's no more shark in there because it's already hatched. But you can find swell shark eggs and other shark eggs in tide pools. You can find them mostly in kelp forests, actually, but sometimes they get brought into tide pools with the movement of water. But really, really cool that we can have these here as well. If you're wondering where the baby shark went, they went to another tank in our aquarium that I just don't have the time to show you. Is recycled water okay for the animals? That's a great question. We don't use recycled water here just because it's mostly fresh water. We use that water to water our parks and grassy areas. But what's really important about the water recycling process is that if you remember all that nasty stuff that the water started out as, we're preventing that from entering this habitat, lessening the amount of pollution in our aquarium. So we already have the other pollutions that you could probably think of. West Basin is just cleaning up the ocean just a little bit more and doing their part in a different way, which is really, really neat. A few more questions here. How long do starfish live? That's a great question. It really depends on the species. Let me get another sea star here. Some sea stars can live for over 10 years. Some sea star scientists are still trying to figure out their lifespan. In the past couple of years, they've been going through a few problems of their own in the natural environment through many different causes, and that shortened their lifespan. Scientists are just barely seeing the hint of a comeback from sea stars, which is another reason why we should definitely take care of our ocean and our habitat. And the way we use the water at home impacts everything else around us. That was a really good question. How much water do animals need? Well, if they're coming from an aquatic environment, fresh water or the ocean, they need it pretty much every minute of their day. We need it maybe 1 or 2 drinks of it a day, but they need it because they're drawing oxygen from the water. If they don't have any water to draw oxygen from, then it's like us not being able to breathe. That was a really good question. What are the sea cucumber spikes? Ooh, that's a good question as well. All of these great questions, boys and girls. So this is called a swarty sea cucumber to be specific. And I'm running out of time here, but they use these bumps to make sure they can scare off any would-be predators. It doesn't work entirely too well, especially when you get a chance to touch them, but that's what that's for. Really good question. Awesome. Let's see. Can Tidepool marine life be an indicator if surround water is not clean? Absolutely. If you have a fish tank at home, don't just put fish in it. Try to put some snails and some what we call invertebrates in it. Invertebrates, if there's something wrong with the quality or the health of the water, the invertebrates are most likely going to feel it first. And they are a telltale sign. If the invertebrates are not doing right or doing well, something's wrong with your water. Which is another reason why this tide pool environment is a great place to visit and keep track of. If our tide pools are emptying, that means there's something going on in the water. Ooh, great question from Leo. What do donations to the Roundhouse Aquarium go to? So Roundhouse Aquarium is a nonprofit organization. We're mostly grant and donation funded. So it depends on what you're donating to. Most of our donations and whatnot just come to the operations of the aquarium, maintaining our animals and tank systems, and then also running these amazing education programs. We do a great education water importance program with Daryl and Janelle, who you just saw recently with West Basin, and we talk all about the importance of water that way. Really, really good. Awesome. Let's see, I'm just trying to go through some more questions here. Do you release the tide pool animals back in the ocean? That's a great question. So if you didn't know, aquariums have specific permission to have animals. To keep it simple and straightforward and not too time consuming, we have permission to have animals in our aquarium. If you don't see an animal in our aquarium when you come visit, it's most likely we don't have permission to have them. Simple as that. And when we have animals that just don't do well in our tanks, or they get too big, or they're eating too much, or they're just stressing out. We have to go through a different procedure before we just willy-nilly release them into the water. Sometimes though, we get the go ahead to do that, and that's really, really cool. What is my favorite sea creature? My favorite one can be found in the tide pool. We don't have one here because it's an open tank, but my favorite animal is the octopus. Really good, really, really cool. Oh, I have a 1 minute warning. That's awesome. You want to know why? Because I have one more animal I want to show you. This entire time, I thought I was almost done. So the last animal I want to show you is the prickly purple sea urchin. You can see on camera all these spikes. Now, you might be wondering, Mr. Juan, does that hurt? Is that venomous? It's not. So if you've ever held a pine cone or like a sharpened pencil and just lightly touched the top of it, that's kind of what the needles or the spines on a sea urchin feel like. As you can see carefully, closely, I don't know if the camera will pick that up. The spines move. This animal's alive. They use those spines to protect themselves from predators. But their favorite thing is, you can see this one's holding on to its favorite food for later. The sea urchin's favorite food is kelp or seaweed or algae. Their mouth is this little round thing right here. There's 5 teeth hiding in there, and they love to eat kelp and seaweed all live long day. Really, really cool. Now, what's really neat before we log off here, or I log off of here, is that the sea urchin, that sea star, and this sea cucumber, though they don't look the same, let me go grab the sea cucumber. They don't look the same, but they're all related. They belong to a group called echinoderms. But if you want to learn more, come visit the Roundhouse Aquarium. It's a free aquarium. We take donations. I can't wait to meet all y'all. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, West Basin.